Okay. So
Testing. Oi, I can hear and see, the little meter moving. All right.
All right. So state your name, please.
Geonni PR Ordelli.
And
That's what the PR stands for.
yeah, what does the PR stand for?
Punk rock.
Oh my god. All right. So when we met in Portland, and we ended up starting a band. That was awesome. We had a great time. But I don't know a whole lot about how you came into punk rock. So, where are you from, and how did you get involved in punk rock?
I was born and raised in Los Angeles, in suburbs, but near the beach, and left to go to Portland when I was 24. And I really didn't know much about punk rock. In fact, I felt like I was kind of sheltered from a lot of things being in high school. And then started experimenting with drugs and started opening my mind to certain kinds of music. And honestly, it sounds kind of lame, but Nirvana's album, Nevermind, really opened the door to like heavy, hard, screaming beats that were
Me too.
intentional, like emotional, intentional freakouts that were like passionate, and I related to the what my body was wanting to do when it heard the music, which was like basically thrash or mosh or just do something to get it out, physically, through the emotional sentiment of it all,
Mm-hmm.
like it meant something.
Can you describe what thrashing is?
Like, like when you, like putting like moshing and music playing together, music when you're making music, creating a sound that's heavy in the beat and heavy on the guitar and the electric, the effects, the pedals of the sound that comes out, and playing fast and hard is thrashing, and then also moshing is just like dancing hard and heavy, and sometimes you get hurt, get black eye. I got a black eye one time in the mosh pit. It was at one of our shows, or one of the bands we were playing. I had my sunglasses on and beefed my eye for a week and a half. That was cool.
All right, so that's how you got involved. How would you describe punk rock as in the ideal sense? For someone that doesn't know anything about the punk rock or the subculture, anything about it, how would you describe it to someone that you just met on the street or on the bus?
Well, to me it's a diverse group of people that are pissed off with what's going on around them, whether it's their family or the politics, and I think being punk rock is being poor and suffering in that financial essence, and also suffering from not being given the privileges of most people who are considered rich or have their family, that doesn't like beat you up or abuse you or any way.
Is there a kind of does that mean that there's some sort of sense of unity amongst people that are in that community?
Well, through music, if the music's good and you like the music and you like what they're saying, you can unite any group of people. And I think the people that unite as a group when it comes to punk are people who don't want to fit in and don't think you have to be happy the way they tell you to do, like go to church or have a job or have children. Like there's other ways to be, and it's like going against the norm, and kind of like being the black sheep, having your own intelligence, having your own thoughts and your own choices, not being, not wanting to be conformed. You're a non-conformist, I think, would be a good way to describe a punk rocker.
Okay. Now you've lived in a few different places. You've traveled. Why don't you tell me about how you think or how you've seen punk rock evolve over the years?
Well, I feel like I was a late bloomer with the punk rock. You know, when I was born, it was just starting to become. I was born in 1972, and you know, you had like Devo and the Kennedys, and you know, Susie and the Banshees and Joy Division and all them great bands going on, and Sex Pistols, and it's like I really didn't get to tap into it until it was just a little bit too late uh, to really get to enjoy them live and you know, get to be a part of the scene. You know, wanting to be part of the scene even though it's kind of late is still, you know, being part of a unity that's just to live forever. So it doesn't matter what era you're at, you can appreciate the music and almost try to recreate your own versions of it, you know, by, you know, having my own punk rock bands, which has been something I've always done my whole adult life, is just play punk music.
How would you say it's evolved to today? Like when you see bands that are coming out now and you hear new music that's called punk rock or in the punk rock vein or described as punk, even though the band itself might not consider itself punk.
Well, you have all these new genres of music. You know, back in the day, for instance, techno, 20 years ago, was just called techno, and then you branch off into these different terminologies that describe, and of course it evolves. And so you have something saying that is punk, and another person saying that's not punk. You know, so there's going to be variations of it, and of course it's time stamped, so you know that kind of helps. The evolvement of it is that, you know, to be really punk, you can't be rich. You can't be you can be successful, but you're not supposed to, like Kurt Cobain. You know, he was really didn't want to be rich. He didn't want to lose the essence of the art of being poor, because when you suffer, you make better music, you make better art. And so, you know, take certain things away, like real life, and most people's music becomes tainted later on, and it's not good anymore. It's supposed to be something that's not supposed to become popular. It's not supposed to be for anything to be, you know, bought or sold or anything that, you know, you can make money off of. It's just to be just for you right there in the moment. And finding those bands are harder, you know, because you don't have the big corporations taking them on. If they do, they're just doing it because they can now make money, and exploitation. Like the clothing stores, or bigger clothing stores are selling metal jackets with, like, you know, punk rock phrases on it. Like, it's just it's a cool thing now. Kind of like the motorcyclists that were the bikers back in the day were rough and tough, and now you just have a credit card and boom, you're a biker. You know, it's like, so it's hard to find the good music, but then when you hear it, you know it's good. You could tell. And so, I mean, there's always going to be shitty music no matter what day and age you're in. But to hear a good punk sound today is harder, I think. It's hard to find.
Okay. Now, you're mentioning Kurt Cobain, and I really liked Kurt Cobain. I did a lot of reading on Kurt Cobain, and one of I don't know if many people know this, but one of his close friends was Kathleen Hanna from Bikini Kill, and she was one of the founders of that Riot Girl movement that happened in the early 90s. What's your take on the Riot Girl movement and feminism and some of the gender roles that were in place or in play back then?
Well, you know, I really relate highly to the Riot Girl movement. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I moved to Portland, Oregon, is because I knew there was a girl rock movement that was going on and strong, and I heard a couple of bands like Sleater Kinney and Team Dresch and 7 Year Bitch and from Seattle, and I just was really taken back by the empowerment I felt by listening to the music, and I wanted to be a part of it. So the Riot Girl, you know, being like the Tank Girl version, you know, non-conformist, you know, farts and spits in your face, doesn't care, you know, what you think they look like, you know, different color hair or shaved heads or tattoos or whatever. It's not looking the way a man wants a woman to look, and also the music being like, hey, we can fucking rock on the stage too, which they do, like back in the day, the Runaways and the Slits, and they and Joan Jett, like, wow, they were the starters of some girl punk rock, and the Neon Boys, no, the Neo Boys, which is an all-girl punk rock band back in the 70s. They were originally the Riot Girls. It's the girl versions of punk rock, basically, is the Riot Girl scene, and it's empowering women and bringing that to light, that we're also musically equivocal to the importance of all men that have made it big in the music industry. Sleater Kinney bypassed the record company industry and did their own music, and they made all this money, and they did it right, and they're empowering women to bypass the corporation, which is all male-dominated industry, and so they're basically making the way for women to rock as well. And I feel like Riot Girl really is an independent way to, I think, the real word for women who want to rock. It's liberation. The Riot Girl movement completely.
And what about there's interviews and articles about Bikini Kill, and there's even an album they have, and they're interviewing a guy, and it starts off when he's talking about how girls dress a certain way because they want to have sex, and it almost alludes to welcoming rape in a way, and that's before they start this awesome song. How do you feel about that? Like, how do you feel about the feminist side about that? With the sexuality, and how does that come into play with the gender roles and politics of punk?
Well, let's see. I mean, I feel like with punk, you're screaming about shit you're pissed about, stuff that's not right. And so a lot of the Riot Girl lyrics would be about, being fucked over by the male, whatever, being raped or being catcalled or,
Objectified.
Definitely objectified, And so it brought light to that problem that, women face. And so I thought that was really important. And they brought a political awareness to it, too, of course, through the music. And so when people started liking the music, they started listening to the lyrics, and it really dominated a new force for women to be heard and to be re-looked at. This is your someone's mother, someone's sister, someone's daughter, like this could be your brother or your sister, your daughter, your mother, and so it helped, bring awareness. And so men who say, oh, she was dressed a certain way, well, that's just a way to justify something that's completely not okay, and of course you could be butt naked and still not be asking for it. So I go to nude beaches all the time, so, or I don't want to be topless or whatever, that doesn't mean I want to be raped, no means no. I mean, it's just bringing that back to light.
Do you think there's some fundamental ideas of equal rights between the sexes involved in that movement?
What do you mean fundamental?
Women had to fight to vote at a certain time in our history. Women were treated like second-class citizens, and I'm just curious what your take on. I feel that the music transcends all of that, but there are still some gender roles in politics, and so what role do other punkers that are not involved in the feminist aspect, do they have some sort of gender idea that they're portraying or putting onto women that maybe the Riot Girl movement kind of clears up or rectifies?
Well, honestly, in most of the lyrics I've ever heard from punk rock, coming from a male band or a male singer, I have never been derogatory. And I'm not saying never, but I have never noticed anything that was derogatory toward women in a way that I thought would be, that's offensive. I've heard lots of derogatory, lyrics in rap or hip hop, and and I don't think that that's been a real issue. But I do believe, like, attacking the issue of women's rights and equal rights, and also to be equal to a man in many ways. There's different angles to address that, and Riot Girl, for instance, are addressing the issues of we want to be looked at as an equal, respective, person, like another man, but only with like a little bit more respect, even, like, so they're attacking that part of it, and I think punk rock's attacking other parts of other things, but you don't hear too many punk rock male lyrics attributing to protect or back up or defend any women being, it's rare, like, but you do hear, like, Sublime, for instance, singing about how rape is not cool, and that's cool. I've heard stuff like that rarely, versus anything attacking women, or saying that they deserve it, or, calling them a bitch or whatever.
Now, what do you feel? How do you feel? Tell me about, I know that you're part of the gay, lesbian, trans community in Portland, and then there's a whole scene of musicians that are involved in that community, and some of those musicians are punk rockers, I'm sure. Why don't you tell me a little bit about that and being a part of that?
I moved out to Portland, Oregon just about 20 years ago. It'll be September, and I've been there majority of those 20 years. I've come back to LA a year here and a year there, only a few times. But I've seen the queer community has grown drastically in Portland, and it's been like that since the day I moved there in '96. And now there's enough gay and lesbian and trans and all kinds of everybody, like, just flocking to Portland, that we even now finally have our own, like, queer punk rock scene going on, which has just blossomed about a year or 2 years ago, which is just right up my alley. And so we have a lot of the trans and queer, and I've played a few shows with my current punk rock band there through their they have these shows. One of them's called Through Queer Aggression, and we were like Queer Aggression, the 5 show, and it's building up, and it's drawing a lot of attention, and the attendance is very big, and the networks on the Facebook and all those internet social medias are really a staple to getting out the locations and the dates, and you can go online and listen to what music they have, but chances are you just want to go and be part of the community and hear some, like, punk rock with queer audience and bandmates. I just think that's really cool to see develop in Portland, Oregon. I've seen a few trans artists perform, and I have a really big amount of trans friends, and I've seen a lot of my friends transition and throughout the years, and the community is just great for the punk scene. It's kicking ass in Portland right now.
Nice. Describe trans, because you're using that a lot, and I don't know if everyone knows what trans means.
Well, transsexual basically means you're born one sex and you're got the brain of the opposite, and you know it, and you basically change your sex to what your brain is, and so you identify as a male, then you become a male. So if you're a trans male, that means you were once a female. So that's what that means, transsexual or transgender, because you don't have to change your downstairs in order to accommodate your identity. You could, take all the hormones and everything. If you have enough money and you're lucky to have enough money to have that operation, then, lucky you. But most people don't. So you have to just respect the fact that they're just transgender or transsexuals.
Okay. Do you have any transgender bands that you can list off? I'd like to know, because I haven't heard. I don't know if I know any.
There's one kid that I like called. She's by herself, and she was really excellent, kind of punk techno, and she's called Destroyed for Comfort. She's really cool. I think you could find her on SoundCloud. And there's another gal that has, like, more of electronic poppy house creational, like, dance type music, and her name is Julia Amore. Yeah, and she's on SoundCloud, and then there's a couple other. Well, there's my band, but we don't have any trans. But I have another band in the making where our drummer is trans, and then also our guitarist would be trans. So we have a trans girl and a trans boy that will be in the band. That we are really excited because the lead singer sounds just like Kathleen Hanna.
Really?
Yeah. So yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
yeah, really excited about that, and you know, putting together music and doing it with the community that you advocate for, which is, you know, queer and trans. And you could be straight, even if you're straight. You could be queer. You know, you're still an ally.
Tell me about that.
Well,
How would you explain that? Because I think a lot of people identify queer as being homosexual.
well, back in the day, queer is a very derogatory, you know, word, and there's a lot of derogatory words back in the day that are, the power has been taken out of it. Like even in pop culture, like the N-word, you know, is got the A at the end, you know, which is okay now if you're saying it non-derogatory way or whatever, or the people that are from that background can say it, whatever. And when you have when you have certain words, you know, like cunt or bitch or pussy, or, you know, you take the word out, homo or queer, you know, it's becoming a positive thing because we're claiming the words back and using them in non-derogatory senses. And so, like, you greet your friends with, "Hey, what's up, slut?" You know, now there's the slut walk, you know, for people who are just sexually happy. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. And so you have, you know, you have your trans walk, you have your gay parade, and then you have your dyke march, and now you have your slut walk.
So these are actually like organized events.
Yes,
Okay.
in Portland, Oregon, in fact, you know, first ones ever.
Nice.
Inspired by Margaret Cho, and a friend of mine made it happen.
I love Margaret Cho.
Yeah. And so, you know, Margaret Cho, she's queer, but yet she's straight. You know, she's not really bi, because bisexual means you can fall in love with both sexes, or now there's more than two sexes, so you have to say pansexual, because you got your transgender community, you have your eunuchs, you have, you know, whatever, and there's more than two, so, you know, just update and evolve the lingo, and you don't say bisexual anymore. So if you're pansexual, bisexual, it means you can fall in love with all, you know, and myself, I fall in love with women, but I still will have sex with men sometimes, or whatever, and humans. And, you know, but the terminology is incorrect, because I don't fall in love with the other sexes. So it's like, you know, you have to really kind of incorporate everybody. And so, you know, when you're trying to like categorize everything and appropriately place people in the right boxes, you have to basically let them decide, and they'll tell you. But, you know, that's how the world's working out these days. But the evolvement of the lingo has changed, so you have to just kind of go with it. So queer is now a good thing, you know, unless you're using it in a derogatory fashion. Nothing's a good thing. You tree, you know, it's like, obviously that's not meant to be taken lightly, you know, like if you scream it, you know, like whatever. So
The way it's delivered.
or say it in a very negative way, you know, to put you down, essentially.
Interesting. So, queer could be someone that's straight, but that they're advocating.
Or being part of the community,
Being
you know,
part of the community.
and recognizing that it's an all-inclusive community. Queer basically means all-inclusive.
Okay.
So you can be anything, and if you want to be something good with the community, then you're queer.
Okay.
By positive means and supportive means.
Awesome. Well, so with punk rock, gender, there's really not too much with gender roles. Like, you don't have a punk rock guy really objectifying or putting women in a specific box that maybe other cultures or subcultures might.
I haven't noticed that. Maybe I'm not paying attention, but I haven't noticed that kind of lyrical dynamic.
So would you say that that punk rock as an idea transcends gender, sexuality?
I don't. To me, punk rock's more of a political or personal way to vent anger and being fed up and making a release. That allows you to bring other people on board to join you, because you just need one person to get you, and all of a sudden your island becomes a continent, and that feels good, and so it's a way to uplift yourself. Sorry if I'm going off topic.
You're not going off topic.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, I think that's really all I need.
Cool, have fun rewriting that.
Yeah, right? I think 20 minutes.
Okay, here. Yeah, 25 minutes. Okay, so now